Okay. We'll now move to item 9, the Implementation Advisor Report. Robert.
Microphone on. Apologies. I'll just speak to the things identified as orange where we've had some progress, but we're not complete. So the first thing is in terms of our work program and implementation plan, obviously we've just had a conversation about that, hence it being orange at the moment. I'd expect that to go green when we present to you a implementation plan in September. The communications one, you'll recall you had a briefing on some of our thinking in terms of future-proof branding and website as part of our implementation of our communications plan. At our last meeting, I am still hoping that we will have a refresh of our website completed by July 24, but there are some delivery risks just wrapped up in some procurement challenges at the moment. So it's touch and go as we sit here today that we'll hit that July deadline. Obviously, all of the future-proof, the next orange is about delivering on our reviewed operating model and getting everything formally set up so that we can function effectively to deliver on our work program. Future-proof is completely reliant on inputs from your staff. So I'm really just a facilitator. And your staff are under incredible amount of pressure at the moment. And so we're not moving as fast as perhaps I and my kind of get on my D8 and get things done mindset would like to go, hence classifying that as orange. Hopefully as once your staff have recovered from the LTP cycle, I'll have a bit more capacity coming out of your organizations to pick up and run with things. So that's why that one is orange. Once the dust has settled. In terms of the Waters Working Group, I could now classify, as of our workshop the other day, I can classify that as green. So we have got endorsement for that water strategy in terms of how it works, its role, how it might fit with the ongoing conversations around structure of future water entities for the region. So we will move to getting that strategy work underway now. As soon as I can corner your staff who are critical to delivering it and get them to help me work out what the next steps are. In terms of transport, for a wee while, we've been coloring things as orange in the transport work program. Obviously, we are unable to deliver what we aspired to 12 months ago, largely due to the removal of the funding from the government from the VKT reduction program. But all of the partner organizations have done what they can to reprioritize their resources to at least keep things moving forward. And if you look at the public transport subcommittees reports, they had a very good report from Phil Hazeldine on the future BRT, bus rapid transit concepts, what our vision for 30 years from now might look like and what bus rapid transit would look and feel like in the metro area. The next big piece of work the regional council is leading, which is looking at what are the actions that we need to do over the next 10 to 12 years to optimize our public transport system and to prepare us for a transition to bus rapid transit in 10 to 15 years time. So that piece of work will be reported through the PT subcommittee as well. So I've colored it green because I feel like we're moving forward, even if we're not moving forward as fast as we wanted to. We've kind of flexed with the available funding. And I'm intrigued to see the announcements from Minister Brown yesterday of extra funding for public transport. And what that means, there was no detail, just a line in a media release. We haven't seen his GPS yet, so maybe there's been some shift in terms of the available funding. So I'm going to be optimistic about that for a wee while. So that's my summary of the report for now, but happy to take any questions, clarification on where we're at.
Got me, Paula and Sarah.
Thank you for the report. Good report, pretty straightforward, and we understand the barriers to progress at the moment because we all.
You pull them.
Never happens. Thank you for a good report, and it's very clearly set out, and we understand the barriers to progress at the time because we have the same barriers to progress. I do sit on that Transport Advisory Group with Neil Holdham, who's doing a very good job on our behalf, actually, to advocate to government for the funding. So we had a couple of presentations last week, I think. I was there in Wellington anyway, recently. I do think we can expect some reprioritisation, significant reprioritisation in the budget. Obviously, the intent to look after the condition of the transport network is a predominant shift. And local government New Zealand has been pushing that, of course, around renewals and maintenance and highways and local roads being of a good standard. Plus the most dangerous parts of the road. Outside of that, the bit that I find of concern is, the low cost, low risk, the micro mobility, the mode shift is uncertain, and they're not even seem to be using that language. The ministry is talking about a passenger transport budget, but no, which is kind of back to the future actually, but no idea of how that budget sits, or if it's subsidiary in any way to any of the other criteria. So yeah, I'm not holding out great hope that for the next couple of 3 years we'll see a budget that is hugely progressive in terms of new delivery, especially in our region. But we are hopeful, of course, Blair, that Southern Links and Ruakura connection for us Southern Links is useful to future-proof, but they are still highly regarded in the conversations as strategic corridors. But outside of that, I'm not hearing a lot of optimistic. I'm not optimistic about any other good news without being pessimistic. I hope that was useful anyway.
Sarah.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Robert, I was interested in, firstly, on page 6 or page 32 of the agenda, there's the action to integrate economic development more fully into future-proof, and it considers issues raised by Te Waka, which now no longer exists. So just interested in your thoughts on this action now, whether we progress it, or if we do, how we progress it. And yeah,
It's not green anymore.
It's probably not
Is that-
green.
should that be
Things
green
happen
anymore?
since you write reports.
Sarah.
So a really good question. We do need clarity as a future-proof area what our economic development strategy is and what we're trying to enable. I'm going to have to take a bit of it goes back to Councillor Clarkson's point, bit of a sit and wait approach for now to see what the region decides to do in terms of economic strategy, because I was going to rely on Te Waka to do that work for us as a partner of future-proof.
okay. And in terms of our sub-regional deal conversations, I understand, productivity and economic development is supposed to be a key part of that. So I assume we kind of have enough information for now to inform that work.
Yeah, we do have enough information in terms of the potential GDP uplift for the PDA areas that we would like to think about it attaching to a deal, at least to the first iteration. It would always be useful to have more clarity about how those particular areas were going to be used, what kind of jobs they would be creating, which is the kind of conversation I would have looked for an economic development authority to help us with.
Yeah.
So in the absence of Te Waka, we're just going to have to wait.
Okay. And I had another question around, so the policy and planning working group for the, just looking at the spatial concept plans that we're looking to scope for those various areas on page 5 of the implementation plan. So what is the expected kind of process for that work?
Yeah, so we're still as staff getting a real scope nutted out that we could bring to you for your endorsement. So the idea is to look at the infrastructure and land use pressures in those areas and how do we get an integrated plan for delivery. So I'll use the South Hamilton North Waipa as an example, where Hamilton City's been doing some fabulous work with developers around the emerging areas work. We need to integrate that with all of the submissions we heard from around the airport of people saying, what's the master plan for the airport? How does that industrial land evolve and change with Southern Links happening? And the strategic messaging that we're hearing out of Ahuaki as it develops Waipa's equivalent to the HUGS, to the Hamilton Urban Growth Strategy, which is identifying some real pressures and risks and in the absence of certainty about how that airport industrial land develops and what its role is for the region. So that's the kind of thing I'm expecting those concept studies to look at. But we won't be commissioning anything until we've got the scopes agreed by staff and then endorsed here.
Okay, and it's something I've raised before, so apologies for sounding slightly like a broken record, but in terms of linking that with that work with your, I guess, value uplift conversations, how does that kind of knit together?
If we could turn off some microphones. I've noted who's speaking next. We turn off some microphones for a moment, so Robert can. I've got you noted in terms of order.
So thinking about value uplift and basically how we get funding for the infrastructure for those areas is a critical part of those studies.
Cool. Thank you.
Me and Jackie, then Carolyn.
Yes, great minds think alike. Thank you, Sarah. I kept my mic on because obviously Sarah's made a good point about the Te Waka, but I guess I wanted more of a proactive reply. Now, I know we've got priorities, so we've had that discussion, I understand that. But the economic powerhouse of the FPIC and the opportunities around that are actively happening, and the fact that we've got strong economic development teams already, as an example. I'm not sure about Manapapiako, but I know the other three are, and I know they talk to each other a lot. So I guess rather than wait and see, I'd like to have a bit more of a oomph to that. Because, well, government wants, GDP. We want people in jobs. So we want to tolerate and support. These are not things that we don't want ourselves, and they're actually happening. And I'm just thinking of the amazing things that are happening around, and really good work in Hamilton, and Ruakura and stuff. So I think that it's something that we should be prioritising, our economic growth and development, and driving that ourselves in the symbiotic relationship. And even that historical symbiotic relationship, the fact there's rural and provincial and urban, we're still service towns to our rural and service, so I think there's lots of opportunities for us to be really driving that ourselves in a way that needs to be done. And it's already happening anyway within our individual areas. So a collective view on that would be helpful.
Noted. So Bill and I had been proposing to get Te Waka in to do some workshopping on economic development at our next programmed informal workshop. We'll just change the speakers and role for that.
Excellent ones we don't, we already paid for. Let's just put more pressure on them. Excellent.
Okay. Carolyn. Okay. No, that's fine. Nothing, no further questions or comments?
Right, we're doing page 33 next, aren't we? Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yep. Okay, so if I can have a mover and seconder to receive Robert's report. Mayor Jackie, got Mayor Adrian. There's nothing further. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried.
And a bloody good job too. Thank you.
Okay,
So we'll move to item 10. And that's the long-term plan, enhanced annual plan alignment.
Yeah.
Page 33 is where it starts in the agenda. Robert.
I feel like this is a where angels fear to tread report. So what we did as a team is we looked at your draft LTPs and enhanced annual plans at the time that they were notified and tried to assess those against all of the various elements of critical infrastructure identified in the strategy and in the relevant business cases, the wastewater detailed business case and the transport program business case. So it's already out of date. It's probably out of date before we started writing the report, given the decisions that were being made iteratively along the way in your LTP processes. But it's a good start, I think, and it's something I'd like to continue to put in front of you as part of our reporting cycle, so you can see how we're going with delivery of our program and of our critical infrastructure. So 2 elements to the report. One, any feedback on the way we've laid the report out that would be helpful or useful. And then the second element is whether any of you want to take the opportunity to reflect on what the implications are of your LTP decision-making processes on the table. I suspect there's a few more red boxes than there were at the time that I wrote this.
Okay, I'll open it up for Mayor Jackie.
It's quite hard for me as a new mayor. So the first one's just a really easy one on page 33, front page. It's just talking about the 2 plants, the 2 water plants, because one's Piketty, the northern and the southern. Just in reporting, because I had to get someone to show me on a map because I've got the GPS of that. So I have my husband around. So can we just name them like consistently?
Okay.
Just because it's like northern, southern, but I think we got Piketty's in there somewhere. What was that?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out.
Phuket's northern, southern doesn't exist yet.
So just a wee thing, but helps me to kind of understand. It's in someone else's area. There might be other things. See other nods.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I think this is good that you've done this. I was shocked and worried because on page 37, I thought we had more work programs than we actually have. I think some of the Hamilton, I just wanted some clarity because there's some conversations around Hamilton City Council on page 33, 37, 36, 37, and top of page 38, which probably maybe come under Hamilton. And so I thought if you're talking about formatting, then maybe there's, yeah, so there's maybe some things that are, and some are great, really collaborative, but so there's kind of like me, you, them, and then us. So there's actually might be a different category of us category, a kumbaya. Okay, that was my little thing there. And I was really enamored with Waipa for their expenditure on where's that? On their expenditure on bus stops, bus shelters. It was on page 48. It's down there, page 48, is it? Bus priority for infrastructure to Cambridge, general funding of $10,650,000 on allocated to bus shelter renewals. 10 million.
Microphone.
I think ours is
That
like,
is good spotting. It does seem like an extra zero might have crept into that.
yeah, and ours is I think 40,000 for the whole of the district, which is like twice the size of Waipa. And the one above it, sorry, this is deliberation week, so I know you've got this bit of energy. We've had a hard week. So and the one above it, which I have read it because it's really interesting to see, really helpful this to get an understanding better around the different councils. So in terms of, is this a good report? I really enjoyed reading it. And yeah, just that walking and cycling was like $277,500,000 for walking and cycling. No, we just wonder, Susan, if we could have some of your ratepayers, because we've got a real affordability issue that we'd probably like to have some of them there. But no, generally speaking, it's a great report.
Yes, Susan, did you want to make any comment?
I was just want to say that our bus shelters are real Gucci,
Can't hear.
totally Gucci. They don't know.
Yeah. I think a few zeros have crept in.
Okay, other comments or questions in terms of alignment report? Some good suggestions there, Mayor Jackie.
Bill and I were just thinking we'll have a look at whether we can add a GIS component to this report, depending on capacity of staff. So you have a map of where all of the identified things are.
Nothing further? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
so
Sarah.
just to confirm, Mayor Jackie's point was to have like the projects where we're expected to jointly fund them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then highlight them. Okay, yes, 100% support that. That was the one thing that I was going to raise as well. So. I guess the other thing is just then translating some of these things, particularly where we've got joint funding, into LTP amendment decisions next year, or water's entities if we still can't cram things into those budgets. So what's your thinking there, Robert, in terms of, I guess, at least having those, early conversations before plan drafts are put together?
So I'm hoping I can keep this document alive with your staff so that we might be able to bring it back to you in 6 months' time as you're starting to move into drafting your LTPs with an indication of what you're thinking about. In that case, we'll probably run this paper as a PX item rather than an open agenda item, so that you're a bit freer in your ability to have some conversations about where your investments don't line up. And then we would repeat it again at the time you notify your LTP, and then at the time that you adopt it.
Cool, thank you.
Mayor Jackie.
It may be just an offline one with our lovely regional council, but just on the bottom of page 51, which is the rating model for PT. Is there any update?
So you're wanting an update of,
If there is one
so there was a
progress.
commitment made in our LTP to engage in regional rating for public transport. And over the next 12 months, we'll be working through with our partners on what that might look like. We didn't, in the end, accept either option 1 or 2 that we consulted on, because there was just not support for that. So we recognize we need to go back to the drawing board, and we'll be doing that over the next year.
If there's nothing further, if I can take you to page 33, a recommendation to receive the long-term plan, annual plan alignment report. Sarah's moving that. Mayor Adrian's seconding that. If there's nothing further, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll move to item 11, the Hamilton to Auckland corridor, review of key initiatives, commencing on page 56. Thanks, Robert.
Right, well, I don't have Jane, who prepared this report, here today from Kāinga Ora, but Kāinga Ora volunteered to do a bit of a evaluation report on whether or not we had made progress with implementing the key actions identified in the Hamilton to Auckland corridor strategy that this committee signed off on in 2019 at the time that the government joined Future-Proof. And so the report goes through those key actions, identifies where we've made progress, where there is stuff still to happen, but it was, for a strategy, it was looking at it as a person who wasn't involved in the preparation of the strategy. It was quite good to see how many of the actions had been progressed. and that there were no reds where we hadn't made some progress against things. In terms of Jane's process, she also talked to the Auckland Council staff and agencies as well, just to check in with them on how they'd done on the actions that related to the Auckland side of the H2A corridor. That's all I've really got to report on this. It's a nice little bookmark on that strategy and gives us a sense of how we might be able to report against other strategies that have been prepared by Futureproof.
Any comments or questions? Bearing in mind, Robert wasn't the author. Okay. Oh, sorry, Sarah.
Actually, I been remiss in not making the comment earlier to say congratulations to the Waikato Regional Council around Te Huia in terms of the funding. Well, slightly reduced, well, somewhat reduced, but still coming through, and also the decision to continue Te Huia for the rest of its trial. It's fantastic news. So thanks for your support.
Thank you for that. And with Andy across the table, we really look forward to having some really constructive conversations with our neighbors to the north around how we can ensure that Te Huia has a future beyond the 5 years.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
It was
good
raised.
job.
It was raised yesterday at our Transport and Infrastructure Committee. You had Neil from the public transport users waxing lyrical about Te Huia and the benefits and how much money we should be putting in.
Fantastic. Exactly what I want to hear.
Okay.
Good job.
Very good. We have recommendation on page 56 to receive that review report. Chair Pamela, James, second there. There's nothing further. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now that brings us to the end of the formal meeting. And Susan, I think before I close the meeting, I think you've got a link for the next informal discussion.
Yeah, I do. Thanks very much.
Okay, no, that's fine. Lyndall.
Thank you. Unuhia, unuhia mai te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te hinenaro, I te ara takatū, koia rā I rongo, I whakairea ake ki runga, kia tina, haumie, huie, tai kia.
I know
Yeah,
you're
Jackie.
closing. Just where Fiona's online. Karakia Whakamutunga will be her last meeting.
She is online, yes.
Will be just with the demise. With Te Waka, just will be she be continuing to come to meetings for Te Waka? If she's not, just wanted to acknowledge that her.
Well, we can do that now.
Yeah.
Yes, if you.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if it's her last meeting here. That's all.
Yes,
Is it?
yes.
And
Yep.
is she there? Hello.
Yes,
Fiona?
yeah, yep, she is online.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge the work of Te Waka and her personally, and just acknowledge we've said to see things moving on, and wish her well.
No, thanks, Jackie. And just adding to that, in terms of Fiona being part of the chief executives grouping, and also involved in some of those formative city deal or sub-regional future-proof deal discussions. So would really like to acknowledge all of that input over a period of time. So thanks very much, Fiona. And on that note, I'd just like to acknowledge the input for today's meeting. There's been some great discussions and input, and the provision of some good guidance to Robert and the team in terms of some of those key matters, such as the implementation plan and other matters that will be coming back to us at our next meeting for consideration. So thanks very much for that. And on that note, I'll declare the meeting closed. So in terms of